Yeah, I think we should talk about also, it's obviously an extremely difficult problem to solve, but I think it's undeniably there and it is endemic. Otherwise, we wouldn't see it across all of these developers. So I want to hear from you, Krista, about like what you think can actually be done about this, or what you would like to see happen in order to start addressing these issues, because it just feels like we're just caught in this endless cycle of bullshit. And it's extremely frustrating to think that, hey, there's nothing that can be done.
People need to be consistent with their outrage, and not get tired of being upset after a few days or after a week. If the momentum that's happening now, people that are speaking out, some people are writing stories about this, people that were and are within the company are speaking out for things that they observe, not just people that experienced it. We need to all keep doing that. But on top of that, members of the community, players, whoever, their response is really key here. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, an employee walk out for one day, cool, kind of, but there's no real long-term impact there. Do something bigger than that, because we need to maintain this outrage and objection if we want to actually make a difference within the company itself. But that's all easier said than done, because we're still ultimately relying on the people in the positions of power within the company to create policies that are actually going to do something to improve things for these people. But
do you think Blizzard just get to write a check and walk away from this?
I think that they will ultimately be doing a version of that. I think they will be writing a check and settling the case. They will fire some scapegoats. They will say they're creating new policies. They will dump a bunch of money into whatever these various initiatives.
It will course or something, yeah, and so you all have to attend it, sensitivity course or something, probably, right?
Yep, we put, we're donating $1 million to this cause, $2 million to this cause. Okay, cool, great. I'm glad these causes are getting more money, but that doesn't mean anything. You can create new policies. Are you actually going to enforce them? Probably not. But I'm jaded on this, as I think we all are. People need to keep calling each other out of their bullshit. Like, call-out culture, there's some problems with it when it's abused, but writing these stories about the difficult things, taking these stories that you're getting when people leak them to you and elevating them, turning them to a megaphone can be really powerful. If you're just some random person in the workplace, pay attention to what's happening. Do what Monty just described a little bit ago, which is he observed something where there was a pattern where some women were not being treated fairly. And by the way, Monty, you made a comment that you didn't know if it was sexism or not. I would put a lot of money on betting that is exactly sexism.
Exactly. I'm just saying the people involved were so stupid that it's actually plausible to chalk it up to incompetence, but I believe it was sexism.
And that's true. However, I think that's another different point, which is you don't need to have the intent to destroy women or hurt women in order to do sexist shit. You could just be really incompetent and be so incompetent that you don't realize that you are letting these implied biases show through and you are treating women differently than that. So
it's also the reporting system that I encountered was broken. Like, how could I talk to 7 different people about, and it wasn't a private issue, about something that was observed by a dozen people that was clearly sexual harassment and nothing be done about it? And it's like, you just run into a wall. Nobody's even willing to have the conversation. That's what I found. I got the receipts, guys. Like, again, I'm not going to reveal this shit because it's not my story to tell. And ultimately, me retelling this story brings people in that are involved into the spotlight where they could experience trauma from re-victimization. Like, trust me, if this gets out there, I will be the first one at bat for this. But I can't do it, guys. I can't.
Go on.
That's another complexity too, which is not your story to tell. If you go and tell it, you're having these people relive all their trauma potentially, but they could potentially be at risk at retaliation, after the fact for having reported it to you.
Yep. So
I agree with the premise. Like, one of the problems is that these are all just a story in people's lives that flash across the screen for 3 days, and they have 1.5 days where they're annoyed when they engage with the story. But then they just, as you say, it's fatigue from outrage. You get tired of it, and also the cycle goes on, and a news story comes along, and you're outraged at some politician or some other company. Like, I'll tell everyone a little secret right now. This is the secret to being really petty about things that matter, because I've mastered it. I've got the whole formula down, like the elixir of life I can drink from anytime I want to. What you do is you just think right back to your experience of when it happened, right? It's like trauma. You put yourself into that moment again and you relive it and you go, how fucking dare that guy say something about me on Excess Reality in 2001? And then you just right back there and you use that and that energy fuels you again. And then you just keep thinking it over in your head over and over again. You think, and then they did this and they lied and they never did anything. And it reignites it. You relive it all again and again and again. Just do that over and over again and either destroy everyone evil in the industry or go mad. But one of the two is absolutely guaranteed. I haven't finished it myself, so I don't know which way it goes, but you know.
Something else is like super actionable, which should be really easy to do. We've touched on this a little bit earlier, which is around these big major events like BlizzCon, Blizzard, tell your employees that they are not allowed to host like booze-filled parties in hotel rooms.
Yes,
imagine
that would be obvious.
The parties that typically host, like, make it something that's clearly prohibited in your policies or something like that. Have your own set of BlizzCon policies. Yes. I don't care, but like have those rules and actually enforce it and monitor it.
How about no private parties where there are beds? Like, let's just start there at the bottom level. Like,
really
don't be in a place where there are beds. Or like, if you want to have these more. Look, I'm a person who doesn't like big parties. I don't like, if I'm at an event like BlizzCon, I like to I like to have actual conversations with people at these events, right? And the networking is an important part of it. But like, just have designated, if these people wanted to do something, it's not like Blizzard lacks money, rent a separate conference room and say, hey, this is where we're going to have drinks and, this is for discussing these topics. And anyone who is part of Blizzard who wants to come here, make sure that it's clear for employees, that it's not some sort of like secret invitation thing, and just say, we're going to talk about World of Warcraft quest design over drinks.
Yeah. We're going to be having drinks later in the Charlie Sheen lounge. What do you mean cocaine and ochs? No, never. It was just a coincidence. We just liked, his movies in the 80s. What do you mean?
Yeah, comedy.
But the default practice at these events too of the big things that people want to go to are the Twitch party or the Blizzard party or whatever. And it's always the same thing. It is some cool venue. It usually starts at 9 at night. It goes until late. There's tons of loud music. It's always an open bar. Sometimes it's just a table filled with unattended drinks that you can go grab, which is
I talked to Twitch parties where I've seen those like tables full of just drinks that could be roofied to shit. And I literally have gone to Twitch and be like, guys, maybe not this one. Maybe we shouldn't do this.
when if you remember when that happened at the what's it called, the big FGC event that they have Evo. Sorry, name escaped me. Not that I'll ever need to remember it. That was something that went on there as well. It was like mass roofying.
Yes.
A colleague of mine, a guy literally felt comfortable in front of dozens of other people, just tried to grab her and take her away. It's madness, some of the shit that these people do. It's like I think honestly, I liked, I should say, when I was a young man, I like drinking. I still do. It's great. I like partying. I love it. I partook of many a drug. I've had many a wild night, many a great time. I liked the early rock and roll years in esports. I was a big proponent of that. I used to stay awake for days, ripped to the tits on speed, so I could write 20 articles over the course of a weekend. But the reality is, what started happening is that was something you did almost external to the event. It started merging. People realized they weren't going to get the glitz and glamour outside of it, or maybe they just didn't have very interesting lives. And so what they started doing was, let's have the big drinking sessions and the debauched parties baked into the conventions. And unfortunately, it's become a massive recipe for disaster, and people are being abused, manipulated, and finding themselves in bad situations. A lot of these people, by the way, are young adults. They're not and certainly not as world wise as I was when I was their age, and so they don't know how to handle. They don't know what to do if they get too drunk. Maybe it is a good idea to sleep on. Look, he's got an Activision Blizzard t-shirt on. He's saying come back and sleep it off in his room. Maybe that is a good idea. Maybe I will be safe. There's a naivety to a lot of it, and when you start plying young adults who are fish out of water in social situations with drink and potentially drugs and God knows what else. Bad things are happening. And I think that is an aspect of convention culture we need to get rid of, frankly.
It's not only that, but if you actually go back in time, Richard, like I'm sure you've heard stories about this, but I think in 2013 or 2014, Riot went to the Dominican Republic with their entire company and basically had a company-wide sponsored like resort bender. And like nobody's ever done reporting on that. I bet you some things happened there. You know what I mean? They even did it. They called themselves Hammer Industries and put a picture of Jace, the champion's hammer there, as a cover so that people wouldn't know that it was Riot. But I mean, the thing that needs to happen in my mind is you need to decultize these companies. Like the cult problem is super, super important, but it's not anything that anybody ever talks about. But they use the same tactics, and also I actually don't understand, but it's like these men who are in these positions of authority don't seem to get that what they think is a good time is a power imbalance that they are exploiting. And they think that it's because of, oh, it's my charm, or like, we're just having a fun party, when the other end of that, somebody that you are potentially sexually harassing who's not interested is playing along with it because the risk to their personal career or their their friendship group might be so severe by rebuffing your advances that they can't do anything. But I don't know if they're doing it intentionally, probably to a certain degree, or whether they're just completely ignorant of their actions. But what's like, grow the fuck up. What I don't understand about these guys that are in these chats is, first off, I have never been in a chat or seen one that it's like, let's bring the hot chicks to fuck in the Cosby suite. Like, I've never even seen anything like that in the industry.
You remember when League of Honeys was fucking just normalized, and prominent figures in League of Legends were acting almost like agents to bring girls to players?
This is a Facebook group, guys.
And this was just openly, this was so open.
Used to be memed on Reddit all the time, yeah.
It was just discussed on Reddit with screenshots, and the fans were fine with it because of who was involved. Riot, a company that bans you for calling someone a cunt during a fucking, game of solo queue, didn't say anything about it. Nobody said anything about it. And then it all just quietly went away when a few people piped up and said, maybe it's inappropriate that you as a prominent figure are literally fetching women for players to have their way with at events. That was, again, just a completely normalized aspect of League of Legends. It's mind-blowing. It's like you say, just grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up.
What I don't understand about these men is like they seem to be just like trapped in high school, where they want to like relive this like high school or early college experience when they're in their 30s. And it's like, grow the fuck up as a man. Like, have a sense of duty to the people who are under you. Have some class and professionalism. Maybe here's a hard one, guys. Maybe you should date people who have nothing to do with the video game industry and act like a normal fucking adult who can have conversations with somebody who has different interests than you, right?
Well, I think here's all you need to ask yourself. If you're watching this right now, let's say you're an Activision Blizzard middle manager, ask yourself, is my job a vector towards getting laid? Is it a pathway to that? If the answer to that is yes, you are a fucking loser. You are an absolute pathetic fucking loser. You should quit. You should go backpacking for a minimum of 2 years and fucking learn a little bit about life, because that's all there is to it. And then come back, and you might be fit to actually be in a position of authority and, crucially, a duty of care over young, impressionable people that look up to you.
And here you go. Here, I agree, Richard. Here's the dev challenge for you guys. Go date somebody who has nothing to do with the video game industry. That's for everybody who works as a developer. Go do it. See if you can. Because if you can't, you might have some weird issues.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.